Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with IndieFolio. Today we have Jigar Shah with us, who's the head of marketing at Cartamundi. Cartamundi is the world's largest producer of cards and board games. You've probably played some of their with their products some time ago. Before Cartamundi, he was also the marketing manager at Crompton Greaves, and before that, spent over a decade at Asian Paints. So really excited to have a conversation about all things marketing and learn a lot from Jigar. So thanks a lot, Jigar. Thanks for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me and looking forward to the podcast.
Brilliant. Jigar, first up, I'd like to just understand a little bit more about your journey. You've done a very interesting things. How you started off, the kind of products you focus on, and what you're doing now. So why don't you just take a few minutes and just unpack your journey for all of us?
Sure. So I did my engineering from Bombay University. I'm born and brought up in Bombay. Then I worked for a couple of years as a software engineer. Then did my MBA from Bharatidasan Institute of Management, Trichy. And post that on campus, I got recruited in Asian Paints. It was a long journey in Asian Paints for about 12 years with 4 years in sales, both in retail, that is B2C sales, and projects, which is B2B sales. Then I was in marketing for India operations for about 3 years as a brand manager. And then I moved on to international business marketing for about 5 years as a senior brand manager. In 2019, I moved from Asian Paints to Crompton Greaves Consumer Electricals Limited as general manager marketing. I was handling brand, media, and digital for 4.5 years, and in that I was managing different businesses including fans, lighting, pumps, and appliances. And in 2023, I got an opportunity to work in a completely different industry, which is toys and games, and for a large manufacturer like Cartamundi, which manufactures playing cards, board games, as well as collectibles trading cards across Europe, North America, as well as Asia. I'm handling marketing for India and Middle East operations. So it's definitely a journey which has included different industries, as well as working across different stakeholders, cultures, etc. So it's been an exciting journey so far.
Very interesting. You rarely see someone go from engineering to sales, then to marketing, and then, being a marketing leader. So how did that happen, right? Like, was marketing something you always wanted to do, or you just stumbled upon it after doing engineering and sales?
So always wanted to do something with communications. Uh, I think I had a knack of meeting people, understanding consumer from a point of view of people per se. So I like to understand the psyche of people, and from there the interest stemmed into communication. And then while doing it, obviously you try and stumble upon what exactly works for you. So it was not a planned journey exactly, but when I started to discover my strengths as I went along the journey, I realized that this is something which I would probably, this is my calling. And hence I probably landed up in the right place. But I would want to thank people who I have come across in this journey, and without their help and support, I wouldn't have been here. So I think that in any journey, it's basically not you, but the kind of people you work with and the support which you get along the way, both in family as well as outside. So I've been fortunate enough to meet some great people across all the organizations which I have worked for, and that in fact has helped to make this journey even more exciting.
Got it, got it. So you did your MBA in marketing, is it?
Yes, I did my MBA in marketing.
And is it natural then for a lot of folks to then get into a sales heavy role? Or do you recommend that to the new graduates probably?
See, I would always recommend to start with sales, because with sales, you're closest to the customer.
Hmm.
And unless you know the realities on ground, which you can only do if you know the customer well,
Hmm.
or I would say customer intimately, you can work in marketing and form marketing strategies. So it's always great to visit the consumer, go and visit the dealers network, and after getting the on ground practical knowledge, move into marketing, which I would say is nothing but support to sales,
Hmm.
if in a very broad manner, if I were to put. So yeah, I mean, I would strongly suggest young, budding marketing or brand manager to start with sales and then take his journey slowly to marketing.
If I can ask you this question in a different way, and a lot of my friends in my age group right now are in this dilemma. They've just done an MBA, and a lot of them have same package, same kind of company in terms of popularity. One's offering a sales heavy role, maybe B2B, and one's offering a marketing heavy role. So your recommendation always is to start with sales, is it?
See, honestly, there's no such template if I were to put, but I would, it also depends upon the kind of opportunities you get, because finally it's about the objectives of the organization which you work for.
Mhm.
So, honest, at the entry level, I wouldn't say you can choose what you want, but I would say that if if there is a choice, or if at least you plan your career, I think it makes sense to start with sales, at least in the initial years. It also is a time when you are not married, you have time at your hand, you can, and you also probably young, more energetic, so you can spend more time in the field, getting to know your customer more intimately, as I already said. So I couldn't harp on this more, so that, and see, even if you are in marketing, for example, if you get a wonderful opportunity in marketing, I would strongly suggest to collaborate with sales, and don't take your eyes off the ground, so well, sometimes you get a wonderful opportunity under marketing at the start of your career, and if the organization demands, great. But even while doing it, don't lose feet on your ground, start by knowing the consumer intimately, rather than rushing, to form marketing strategies, etc. So I would strongly suggest that if you're in sales, and start with, visiting the market, knowing the customer intimately, and even if you are in marketing, wear the sales hat as much as you can.
Got it. Got it. I'm going to touch upon this topic a little bit more in some time, because I want to know more, and it's something I even personally face a challenge with. But before I unpack that further, I wanted to check with you. I think you mentioned that if you're planning your career journey, obviously, when you're young, there is less flexibility in terms of what to choose, but you can plan your career well. And a big intention behind this podcast was a lot of people want to be in your shoes maybe some time from now. Obviously, you must have seen that there are certain things you did better than your colleagues, which helped you kind of be in the place you are. So, could you again share some thoughts on, if I were to ever become a CMO, a head of marketing, a general manager of marketing, what are some things I should start proactively planning for, to reach this stage as soon as I can?
See, I would say first you need to be open, open to learning, open to working with different types of stakeholders, different personalities, different cultures sometimes. So I would say the biggest thing which you can do for yourself is to be open and be flexible, and open to different experiences, I would say. If you look at my journey, the opportunities which came to me, I tried to understand it more from my seniors, especially my bosses whom I worked for, and it that allowed me to understand the expectations more clearly. Okay, and then again, it's not just working with your immediate colleagues or with your immediate team, but also working with the larger team. And I would say that I would strongly suggest the budding managers, budding brand managers, or even sales managers to collaborate outside their team as much as they can, and not only internally but also outside the organization, in the general marketing ecosystem, because see, as technology and trends in marketing, especially from a consumer point of view, change every day.
Yeah.
So if you are not up to speed, you will lose the game.
Hmm.
So that's my recommendation for a budding marketing manager.
Fantastic. So I think stakeholder management and I think cross-departmental collaboration are some keywords I heard. A lot of times, what happens, which what I've seen, is that you have your ROI as a big metric which all marketing teams track. Now, often they have seen that I'll probably, and I've been speaking to CMOs like you, right? So what I've heard is either you get ROI by reducing money and getting to the same outcome, or you 2x your outcome with the same spends, or you think of an untapped opportunity. I was talking to somebody who was heading the 3G and mobile vertical in Airtel 15 years ago, where it was 1% of their business or something like that. But the fact that they doubled down on that and it just blew up, right? The industry blew up. The person also blew up in their career. So I wanted to know from that point of view, like what should I focus on as a marketer today, right? What did you focus on? Maybe that's a better question. What did you focus on and what helped you? Because I understand stakeholder management and collaboration, but in terms of hard skills, right? And KPIs, what's been the usual energy you put your time on?
See, I would strongly suggest everyone to look at the larger picture. When you look at business, what is the number one business objective which the organization has? Because if you ask any experienced manager, uh, after say 15-20 years of experience, the one thing which he or she will definitely say is that what is it that I am contributing to? What is the larger goal of the organization? For example, if it's gaining market share, you know in a highly cluttered market with a large market size, that is, if that is the goal, then what role can you play to help the organization achieve that goal? So I would say that even while looking at your own KPIs, don't lose sight of the broader objective that the organization is going after, and then try and link your KPI to the broader organization KPI. See, you might think at your level that how am I going to make a difference? But you ask, and I again repeat, you ask any experienced manager worth his or her salt, he or she would say that each and every employee makes a very strong contribution, to achieving the organization goal. And if you start speaking that language, then you will always be appreciated by your bosses, by your colleagues, and the stakeholders which I was talking to. And see, again, as I said, that you when you work in a corporate organization, you can't work in isolation, right? So unless you know, or unless you are aware of what the organization is after, you will never be able to link your goals to their to the larger organization goals. So
Got it.
that, I would say, is the biggest.
Got it. Okay, that's fantastic. Now I put a lot of these things together where like you need to know where the company is going and talk that language because all your CXOs and management are chasing that North Star. And even your cross-departmental teams will be chasing the company North Star. So the more you talk, the more you collaborate, the more nuanced your opinion will be, on whatever you do on a day-to-day basis. Um, on this journey part, I think that towards the last few questions, there was you've worked in very large companies from the get-go. And while that may not be a case, in when you graduated, today there are a lot of startups, a lot of companies going 0 to 1. I am a company which went 0 to 1, a very young company, and I did end up hiring some marketing folks who were freshers. When we didn't have the large revenues or funding, we ended up investing into freshers, and some of them did an incredible job. What is your suggestion here? I've just done an MBA, probably from a good college. Now, there's a large company where there is probably a 10-year career path sorted for me, and I can work at scale immediately. A friend of mine, is working with a bank, and his team's goal was to do some 10,000 crore spends. I'm like, that's crazy. You're coming right out of college and working on that in a bank. But with a small company, it's going to be a lot about figuring out the early levers in the first place. So, what would your recommendation be? Who should I go to? What company should I choose? Or again, I'll ask it in a different way. If you were to go back to college, what path would you pick?
See, I wouldn't compare, my time, which was say about 2007 to 2024,
Yeah.
I would say that the times have changed a lot. Now you have many wonderful opportunities. The industry across different sectors have evolved. There are many new sectors which have come up. And see, because there is so much development, evolution which has happened, the business also has changed substantially. So I would say the challenges in 2007 to what challenges the businesses face in 2024 are extremely different. So when a young manager joins the organization, whether it's a startup, whether it's a large business, I would say, although the challenges are very different from the scale point of view, finally it comes down to what is that significant contribution which you can provide at your level to the organizational cause. If I were to take a startup, it might be to grow extremely fast, maybe 5x, 6x. And to that extent, the person, the manager who is joining will have to start finding his feet very early.
Mm.
And just on the bang need to start performing, or maybe contributing, without taking undue stress, but start contributing and start keeping up with the pace of the organization. Whereas in a large organization, it would be highly nuanced. You need to understand the culture, you need to understand what is exactly your role, and take, I would say, take some time into understanding what exactly you need to do, and then take steps slowly.
Yeah.
So I would say that while the challenges will be different, you need to understand your role to the larger organizational cause,
Mm.
and then accordingly take steps.
Got it. Got it.
But it is not too different, honestly, believe me, that even in a company like my first company, which was Asian Paints, although it was a large company, there have been projects where we acted as startups.
Mm.
It was new for the company at that particular time. So it's not, I would say, a zero sum game. There are many projects even within large caps which are like startups. So obviously you need to understand what is the project objective and then work accordingly.
From what I understand is that I think the role is far more important than anything. Be it the
Absolutely.
company, the stage of the company, क्या करने के लिए hire किया है, is I
Yeah.
think fundamentally what you need to understand. And so many people I've seen in the hiring cycle as employees, they don't ask the company a lot about karna kya hai. They are just trying to sell themselves versus understanding what's expected of them. So that's a great point. And do you feel that marketeers who work in startups are a little spoiled? And I'll tell you why I ask you that. Okay, because I have a lot of respect for legacy companies. A lot of people think some of them are boring, etc. But the truth is that they've really cracked it, right? They're a profitable enterprise, so their marketing dollars actually have a positive LTV value compared to their CAC. At one other point in time, you see so many startups, they've hired some good people, but they're burning money. So fundamentally, would you say that their marketing strategy is working? Not really. I mean, there are companies are poster childs of startups, have launched 10, 12 years ago. They're still making a loss. Their marketing is still not giving positive ROI. So do you think people who come from these funded startups as marketers are spoiled, and then they realize, oh, I have very less flexibility in traditional companies?
See, I would say it is not, exactly, about marketing per se. I would say it's about the business. Again, when I started off the conversation, I said that look at the larger objective. Even here, I would say that, when you look at marketing, or when people think about marketing, they think about communication, ads, celebrities, nowadays influencers, social media. While these are obviously parts of marketing, important elements of marketing, marketing is finally essentially about the consumer, you know, and understanding the consumer. So I would say, even in whether it is a small company, or which is a startup, or a large company, unless you know the consumer intimately, no amount of advertising spends is going to help you achieve the ROI which you were speaking about.
Right.
So I would say I would strongly suggest the budding marketers to go beyond the glamour and try to understand what is the business objective, and then accordingly understand the consumer well,
Mm,
and then figure out what are the needs, and then work on your marketing strategy as per that.
mm,
And again, see, I wouldn't want budding marketers to rush. Sometimes what happens is that in an urge to prove themselves, they start getting into activities very quickly.
mm,
I would say that it's important to pause, important to reflect what is the way in which the organization is going from a business standpoint,
mm.
and then create your marketing objectives and your marketing plans as per that.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Fair enough. Now, jumping to some specific, questions I had for you was, you had mentioned upon sales and marketing working together. I work with a lot of large companies myself. Even a small company like ours, IndieFolio, which is 40, 50 people. We also have a sales and a marketing team, and it's not easy, to blend both. Sales is generally more impatient, because they're more trackable and they're like either deal close karna hai, while marketing has to be more patient and things take time, and they both usually don't always get it off well, the bigger they are, right? So what's some advice you have, because you mentioned you've done this, sales and marketing work together very well when it comes to you and your teams. So any tips, any suggestions you have on how they can do that?
Yeah, I think, see, that's a very important question. I would say about 50 to 60% of the success in your role depends upon how do you align with all the stakeholders, including sales.
Mm,
Now, I would say that first you need to start with your marketing plans for the year. When you have a very solid planning calendar, solid marketing budget made and crafted for yourself, it becomes easier for you to give timely updates and align your stakeholders as per that.
mhm,
Many a times, what happens is that the sales team, as you said rightly, is impatient more from the fact that they need to deliver the numbers.
mm,
So, unless as a marketer you update them, you keep them aligned to your goals and your timelines, they will definitely think that you are not doing anything for themselves, for them.
mm.
So it's very important to keep them updated on a regular basis in terms of what exactly you are doing from a planning and timeline point of view. It's okay to tell that you have failed in delivering certain timelines at the early stage, rather than after the project is over and do the blame game.
Yeah.
So I would, and I've done this myself, that start with a very strong planning calendar,
Mm,
update stakeholders regularly, maybe have a weekly chat in terms of a calendar invite, block the time. If it helps, maybe create a WhatsApp group, but I would say over communicate,
mm.
even at the extent of boring your stakeholders. Over communicate.
If I can follow up on that, Jigar, when it comes to communicating from marketing to sales, what important aspects do I must communicate to my sales team?
See, and that's again a very good question. See, I would strongly suggest that when you're talking to sales team, you should talk in a language understandable to them.
Yeah.
Many a times, what happens is that marketing start, they get into their lingos, and they get lost into it. But when you're talking to salespeople, it's important to know what are the deliveries, what are the objectives which they are chasing, you know, and try and fit your marketing strategy, marketing plans as per that, you
Mm,
know, and without getting into too many details. It's important for the marketing team to understand that they are not working in isolation.
yeah.
And it's important to take other teams along with them.
Yeah.
So I would say that start speaking in the sales language, and fine tune your maybe your PPTs or your communication Excel sheets, etc., as per that. So that's my strongest advice as far as working with sales is concerned.
Got it. If I can flip that also, You very well mentioned, and I love sales. I do sales for IndieFolio also. I think sales will never have like better information than anybody else, right? When it comes to understanding the customers' pain points, their needs, because they're talking to customers on a daily basis, building a relationship with them. But when marketing wants this information, it's like, it's so much work. When will I like inform you? And then what happens is our human brain, puts some bias to it, makes it into a cocktail, and after 6 months, kuch aur hi aa raha hai. So, what's an effective way to have that knowledge transfer happen from sales to marketing as per you?
See, in many large companies, you have the benefit of consumer research,
Hmm.
and I would say if you have it, I think take it fully. See, because any consumer research, especially if it's a quantitative consumer research, will give you hardcore numbers
Hmm.
on which you can rely upon, and then again, the judgmental views and subjective judgments don't come into play.
Yeah.
So I would say start speaking with hardcore data, especially when you have the benefit of a consumer research.
Hmm.
If you don't have the benefit of consumer research, I would strongly suggest either to do a dipstick yourself,
Mhm.
and if you can do with the sales team, along with the sales team, nothing can beat that,
Okay.
because then you get them along on your side.
Right.
So if you have a joint understanding of the business of the customer, and then both you and the sales team kind of align with that,
Yeah.
then there is lesser chance of having confusion later on any sort of objective or any sort of plan.
Yeah.
So these are the things I would say.
Got it. I'll now hop into knowing a little bit more about your experience in selling commodities. It's generally hard because these are like products sometimes you don't even think too much about. I personally feel किसने playing card banaya to what's my geezer's brand or my paint on my wall. I think I personally wouldn't like to care about it, and the reason I also just care about these things is because of marketing today, honestly speaking. So what's your experience in selling commodities, and generally what are your top learnings when it comes to selling commodities to a large market?
See, commodities, when we say commodities, what I mean is, or what I understand, is low involvement categories.
Okay.
Categories where the consumer would not think twice in terms of buying, or maybe it doesn't involve a lot of consumer research.
Mhm.
But what is still important, when you make or when you create marketing strategies for commodities, is how they touch the consumer lives.
Mhm.
It's important to frame where your product stands in the day, in the life of the consumer,
Mhm.
and try to articulate the consumer insight basis how how your product touches the life of the consumer. I will give you an example, of a category like pump. Now
Mhm.
when you talk about pumps, especially in metros, not many consumers are involved, because you get water supply from the municipality. But in tier 2, tier 3 cities, a pump is a very important part of the household.
Mhm.
But what is important in a pump from a consumer point of view? The most important point is, if the pump doesn't function properly, that there is disruption of water supply, the planning of your whole day goes in a haphazard manner, right? So it's so if so from a consumer point of view, the pump does not supply water. The
Mhm.
pump smoothens the life of the consumer.
Mhm. Nice.
So what I mean to say is that when you look at a commodity, you need to understand that what is the role which the commodity plays in the lives of the consumer, and that you will be able to articulate only if you articulate the life of the consumer.
That's superb. I mean, I've not really heard about this in this format before, and I love the example. I want to now touch upon, the fact that when you're working in an Asian Paints or a Crompton or even a Cartamundi is, so I think, over 300 years old, right? While they have a legacy attached to it, as a marketer, you may be joining a brand who's launching a new product, which is new. I think you're also to a degree doing that for Cartamundi. We'll talk more about it soon, but it's a new market for them, I'm assuming, and they're doing some new things. So how do you balance that out, right? As somebody who's in a legacy brand and he's launching new products, do you have a baggage? Is it an advantage? Is it a disadvantage?
See, I would say it's definitely an advantage
Mhm.
because you come from a position of experience,
Mhm.
and I would say experience in terms of understanding the consumer.
Mhm.
See, when legacy companies plan to launch a new product or introduce a new segment,
Mhm.
the plan is based certain consumer needs. So so when I look back at all the organizations which I've worked with, it has always been the case of entering a new segment because
Mhm.
there is a need to either bridge a consumer need or to grow a particular market or segment. you know
Mhm.
so I would say that understand the need of the consumer
Mhm.
and the market,
Mhm.
and then plan your strategy basis that.
Mhm. Got it. Got it. I have follow up here, and this is maybe not for the marketing people, but it's for founders like me. Um, Generally, whenever you have a product in the market, there's always an opportunity to go upstream or go premium. You know, and there's a huge D2C wave, in the country today, and I work with so many founders who are making consumer durable products like consumer product goods. One dilemma they always have is, if I have a budget brand, do I launch a new premium brand with the same name? Will it have a connotation that ये premium तो नहीं है यार, ये तो लोग ये सस्ता चीज बनाते हैं? And vice versa, where I have a premium brand and I'm launching something budget, it may have a certain things that, it's probably going to be more expensive than I think it is. So, what's the right approach to handle two price points for two premium and budget options as a market, and how to market them effectively?
I think it's a great question. See, it's important to understand the perception of your brand in the market,
Mm-hmm.
and also what is the brand identity which you want to create.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you are looking at a premium brand, and if you have been in the market, or if you are perceived as a premium brand in the market for some time, then it doesn't make sense to introduce a budget brand within the same brand name, just to maybe increase your volumes or spread your product across different market segments. One is you'd be doing damage to your brand because it has a certain meaning to the consumer who is using it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would strongly say that it's better to not dilute your brand if it is serving a purpose from a consumer point of view, from your target consumer point of view, and launch a different variant or a different product which caters to a different TG and a different segment.
Mm. Got
So
it.
my strong suggestion would be not to dilute your brand, whether it's in a premium space or in a budget space, and look at your TG.
Mm.
Again, I come back to the need and understanding of your TG, and then plan launch of a new brand as per that.
Understood. Makes sense. Makes sense. Next up, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you know, consumer behavior. Uh, do you think all customers are the same? Or when I'm buying a pump, a geyser, paint, or a card, I am a different person generally. Like, have you seen that as a challenge?
Oh, definitely. I would say that even you mentioned geezer, even within geezers,
Uh,
a customer in Delhi and a customer in Bombay will behave in a very different manner.
Okay.
For example, in Delhi, especially in and not just Delhi but other parts of north like Punjab, etc., one, the climate is very different. You have harsh winters. Two, the houses are very different. They are probably much larger than, say, in a city like Bombay. So a product like geyser has different functionalities in a larger house in a different climate in Delhi compared to a smaller house and a different climate like Bombay. In Delhi, you would need a storage water heater because you need more water storage and you need water heating for a longer amount of time, and probably for even more number of people. Whereas in Bombay, it will be an instant water heater because people don't have time. People move around quickly, and they need fast instant water heating, you know,
Yeah.
instead of a bigger storage space. So as I said, e- every product has a different role to play in the consumer's life. When
Hmm.
you talk from a geo geography point of view as well as demography point of view.
So when you take the geezer's example, would you communicate, like, will your communication be very different for Delhi and Bombay when you were selling it?
Not necessarily. See, again, it depends upon what is your overarching communication. You know, for
Mm-hmm.
example, in our case, you know, we used to communicate that our water heaters deliver faster water heating. You
Mm.
know, from, but the point is that when you try to articulate it, say for a market like Delhi and for a market like Bombay, it will be different from the creative language which I speak,
Mm.
from the media platforms I choose,
Mm.
but the overarching communication will still be one, you know, because you again don't want to confuse the consumer, you know.
Got it. So overarching communication is the same, but as I would say, the last mile touch points would be localized.
Aspiration, absolutely.
Understood. Understood. Got it. Got it. Next up, another interesting question for you, because I when I talk to my young marketeers, there are notions, right? And a notion is focus on one industry, focus on one segment, grow in that segment, and you'll become a CMO faster than anybody else. But again, with you, while you've spent a decade in Asian paints, but I think you've done multiple lines there. You then moved into a very different industry, and now you're in a very different industry. Is that the recommended path, or should I stick to one industry consciously for better success?
I would say there's no one way for, you know, growing as a marketer. It depends upon the kind of opportunities which you get, but it also more depends upon the kind of what you do with the opportunities presented to you.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say that, you know, whatever opportunities comes your way, make sure that you are open from a learning point of view and from contribution point of view. And you know, when you go along that journey, you know, you yourself will find out, you know, what exactly is the better next step for you. So I would say don't plan everything in advance. Be open to learning. Again, situations, circumstances change, as we were talking about that the industry in 2007 and the industry in 2024 has changed a lot. So as the marketer grow, you know, in their organization, and also, you know, as industries evolve, you know, you need to keep attuned to that and then take your decisions accordingly.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Again, I'm going to ask this to you a little bit differently so I can get a little bit of a different answer. Um, if I was, let's say, a Crompton Greaves, okay, or even Cartamundi, and I'm hiring my leader, at one point there is someone like you with incredible background experience, and you've proven, as general manager before that you can work at scale. The other person out here is maybe somebody who's had a gaming background. They've been in the gaming space. Probably they were ex Hamleys or something. I'm just spitballing. Do you think that that person who has that background would trump you? That is basically where I'm coming from.
See, many times that depends upon the objective of the organization. If
Hmm.
the organization wants to enter a different segment
Hmm.
to then it has already been,
Hmm.
then they would definitely prefer somebody from a different industry, because that person will bring a different or a varied kind of experience, you know, rather than somebody who's already been in the industry for some time.
Hmm.
Because see, when you are in the industry for some time, you develop your own perspective, you
Hmm.
have your own thought process.
Yeah.
But when you come from a different industry to a new industry, you bring with yourself expertise in different in a other industry, which, you know, which helps you in thinking in a different manner,
Hmm.
and it kind of helps to break industry stereotypes, I would say. So yeah, I would say that, you know, if say a company is getting into a newer segment, a newer market, catering to a new consumer, then it makes sense to, you know, recruit from a different industry. And when the company wants to scale up in the same industry, in the same, you know, industry segment, or catering to the same consumer, it makes sense to bring in an industry person, because he or she would be definitely able to replicate or leverage their industry expertise.
Understood. Understood. Yeah, I think what I hear is very often people get jaded, and leaders understand this, companies understand this, and that's why they get people with fresh point of views. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I understand that. I'll jump now into a little bit about where you're working right now, and it's a very interesting company. Being very candid, I wasn't fully aware of the legacy this company has, and the fact that they've been building cards and games I've been playing since I was a child. It's pretty fantastic. So, generally, I think question to you is that in gaming, products are both considered like recreational, discretionary. How do you build? What's usually your marketing strategy uh, in such a segment?
See here, if I would say, the first and foremost, it's a evolving category in India.
Mm,
Unlike some of the other evolved categories like FMCG,
right.
durables, etc., the industry is still growing, and industry is growing at a rapid pace. So definitely, it gives, as a marketer, you get the advantage of
Mm,
doing many firsts.
mm,
Especially since the consumer understanding is still getting evolved.
yeah.
You can try different theories and see which one succeeds, which one doesn't, and then accordingly tweak your strategy.
Mm,
So at this point, what we are doing is we are trying to understand the consumer more intimately. And as you said rightly, we are living in the industry of D2, in a world of D2C, online, digital. So it's important to understand the consumer from a new age media point of view. It is not enough to go to our retail stores. So we have about 3,000 plus stockists in India. It's
mm,
not enough to just go and meet our dealers and try and understand the consumer from their lens.
mm,
It's important to marry that learning from what is available online, whether it is reviews, whether it is ratings, whether it is some sort of consumer research which is available online. But it's important to understand the consumer behavior both from an online and an offline point of view, and basis that try and frame your marketing strategy.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I really feel, and I could be completely wrong, but if I were to guess, what's going to be very important is that there needs to be some brand pulled from the customer. And at that same point in time, when I'm going to buy my cards, that person should have that distribution sorted. That, okay, my product is available here. So it's going to be a combination of both, and it's pretty hard to do from what I know. So
Yeah.
how what's the major plan, for you folks, where I think I already must be using your products without knowing I'm using your products, right? That's I think such a big challenge. How are you planning to solve that?
See, we are trying to change the perception of our product in the
Hmm.
mind of the consumer. I would say the biggest sort of disruption this industry had was during COVID.
Okay.
As you know, during COVID, people started spending more and more time at home, and that called for a need, for a product which helps create bonding between the family.
Hmm.
So, as a playing card, the biggest role which the product played was to enable the family to spend time with each other in a fruitful manner,
Hmm.
in a meaningful manner. you
Hmm.
know so whether there are games like Uno, or whether there are even Indian games like, say, Mendicote, or Gulam Chor, as you would have known, since this has been going on since, I would say, centuries in India. you know
Yeah.
but when the COVID disruption happened,
Mm.
the need for, again, I would say, going back to these games became more and more.
Right. Right.
So this was the inflection point for the industry.
Mm.
And also, after COVID, what started happening is people started consuming lot of screen time. And with the screen time going up and up, there was a need for digital detox,
Mm.
and there was a need to find an avenue for entertainment
Right.
outside internet, outside your mobile phones,
Right.
which is the which is the role which the playing card is going to now play in
Mm.
the family.
Right.
We want our products to be an integral part
Yeah.
of the lives of the family. We
Yeah.
want a younger father or a younger mother to come back from their offices and use our products to bond with their children, whether
Nice.
it is playing cards, whether it's board games, whether it's collectibles. And that is where and that is the revolutionary part of our product.
Hmm. Got it.
If they can play a meaningful role in the lives of the consumer, I think we'll have our marketing strategy sorted.
That's exciting. So, you mentioned board games, you mentioned, I think, some things about gifting when we spoke last. So, are these new avenues for Cartamundi, or or what else are you doing? What are the plans this year?
See, if you look at last 3-4 years, especially in the game space, there has been a tremendous amount of innovation which has been happening,
Hmm.
and that also stems from the fact that the way in which education has changed in this country
Hmm.
has made the manufacturer or made the brands change their strategies.
Right.
So nowadays, if you see from a younger age, parents spend time learning with their kids. So whether it's flashcards, whether it is board games like science, planets, I would say even pic- pictures. So
Hmm.
these are all trends which has kind of shaped the industry in the last 3-4 years,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
has kind of forced the industry to look at games which on topics which matter to the consumer.
Hmm.
So what we are doing is we are coming up with a lot of board games about topics of science,
Okay.
about topics of planetary systems, etc.
Are you developing these in India?
So it is both. It's
Okay.
it's again we are at a very early stage, I
Okay.
would say. So we would be testing waters and then see what kind of works with the consumer, and then accordingly decide.
Got it. And the way you sell a board game versus your cards, will it be a different buyer journey or will it be same?
See, it is different from the point of view that it caters to a different target consumer.
Hmm.
So if you look at board games, especially board games which are science based,
Hmm.
are generally meant for lower TG, in terms of age. So we are looking at a 7 to 10 years old.
Hmm.
When you are looking at a playing cards, you look at whether it's friends, whether it's families. From a friend's point of view, it's maybe a evening out, day
Hmm.
out, or from a family point of view, it's either social gatherings, festivals, etc.
Hmm.
So it depends upon the target consumer and depends upon the occasion
Hmm.
in which the product is used.
Understood. Understood. So I'm just trying to understand, like right now, what's the usual marketing stack for you, right? So, or rather the flow for you. So, is it primarily a distribution game with stockists, or is it that you are focusing a lot on direct sales from your websites, or maybe apps like Instamart also sell cards today?
That's an interesting question. See, obviously the distribution network is the largest for us
Okay.
from a revenues point of view, but as as we are living in a D2C world, all other, I would say, platforms are growing rapidly for
Yeah.
us. So
Yeah.
whether it is e-commerce, whether it is D2C, and even as you said rightly, the QSR platforms,
Yeah.
we are finding demand for our products across all of these platforms.
Hmm.
So it's important for us to ensure that the consumers discover our
Hmm.
products on these platforms,
Hmm.
and hence the product availability is extremely paramount.
Hmm.
And also the way in terms of the marketing approach, in terms of both the digital marketing as well as the our offline marketing,
Hmm.
kind of works together.
Okay. Have you explored community-led marketing or maybe event IP or a game IP-led marketing also? Because that could be exciting.
Again, it's a brilliant question. See, if you look at the toys and games industry, it's very common to have trade fairs like Comic Con,
Yeah,
which are more about comics and brands which are in the
correct.
anime and the comic zone coming together. So these are all opportunities for us to showcase our products.
Hmm.
And then there are other toys, fairs which keep on happening in
Hmm.
India. But again, what we would like as a consumer is to deliver a seamless experience.
Mm.
across both offline and online, and hence omni-channel strategy is
Okay.
very important
Okay.
for us to focus on.
Got it. Got it. Understood. Now I just want to get to some specific questions, and these are the last questions of our podcast, which is understanding your execution insights. Right. So now that we discussed what are important things to keep in mind, it's time to execute. And the first thing you need to do is make your creative stack. Lot of marketers who I work with are pretty much in a dilemma all the time that should I outsource, what should I insource, should I get an agency, should I get a freelancer, should I get an in-house team, etc. What's been your usual insight on this? If you were to go about building a creative stack for marketing, how do you go about it?
I think it's a brilliant question, and I've been fortunate to work in brands or in organizations with great ecosystems.
Mm-hmm.
As a marketer, it's important to work, not, as I said at the start of the podcast, that it's important to work not only in the periphery of your own team internally but also outside.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to understand what a agency or what a outside partner will bring to your organization.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you look at making creatives at scale, for say e-com content point of view, I would definitely prefer agencies, because one, they kind of are able to bring experience from different and varied types of industries, especially in the online first space, and that experience can be easily replicated in your industry.
Mm-hmm.
But from, say, I would say, from a product development point of view, and especially from understanding the your own products point of view, I would prefer a internal designer or somebody who can work within the organization to deliver. So
Mm-hmm.
at this point of time, we are recruiting people in our design team to
Okay.
work on new product development, but we are definitely looking to partner with agencies for creating content.
Okay.
So yes, there is a bit of both which is involved, and that together makes a marketing ecosystem in your organization. And having worked with evolved organizations like Asian Paints and
Mm-hmm.
Crompton,
Mm-hmm.
I am very familiar with this kind of a ecosystem, and that is what I'm trying to build in my new organization as well.
Awesome, awesome. I have been hearing. I wouldn't say it's a notion, but I've been hearing a lot of smart people in the advertising space discussing that it may be an end of retainers for agencies. That the world's moving to BAU work happening internally, while all campaign work happening on a project basis. Is that true, according to you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, why do you say that?
See, I'm a firm believer, and having handled practically 6 to 7 agencies in my previous role,
Wow.
from creative to media to PR to advertising, it's important to give some time to your agencies. It
Right.
is not possible for any agency to understand the consumer and to understand the business in the first month itself and start delivering.
Hmm.
The whole objective of a retainer system is to give a long rope for your agency, and also the assurance that
Hmm.
you are with them for at least a period of time,
Hmm.
when typically the retainers are made on an annual basis.
Hmm.
And that gives your agencies time to recruit a team
Yeah.
which can understand your products, which can understand your market, and
Yeah.
which can understand your consumer. you know and basis that, you work hand in hand with the agencies. You fail sometimes, you succeed sometimes. That's where the whole fun lies. And see, it's also important for everyone to be accountable. It's not just the responsibility of the of the brand team, and similarly it's not just the responsibility of agency to
Yeah.
deliver fantastic campaigns.
Correct.
In my previous agencies, we have won 6 to 7 awards, from ranging from the brand equity award to the Amazon award to digital awards like IDMA, etc.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
every time we have given equal contribution, equal appreciation to our agencies. And
Fantastic.
that has all only been possible because we work in a very systematic manner. For every campaign there is a brief, to the agency.
Mm.
There's again then there is a call to understand the brief,
Mm.
and that is all. And then there is a call to understand the objectives of the organization, of the campaign.
Right.
Then once the campaign is launched in a big manner, then it's important to review it on a timely basis. All this is possible only from when there's a retainer, when there's some sort of assurance
Right.
between the company and the agency. So I don't think it's going to go away so soon.
Superb. No, that's great to hear. I'm in that business, so it's always good to hear that from a marketing head like you. Um, this also prompts me to ask you another question on, let's say an agency founder is listening to you right now. What would be your advice to them when it comes to cracking large relationships with big brands like you, and then actually being an impressive AOR? What are some top things an agency owner can do?
I've been fortunate to work with some great agencies.
Right.
And the one common thing which I've seen across these agencies is that they understand the business very intimately,
Mm.
the business as well as consumer.
Mhm.
They keep themselves in the shoes of the brand. They never shirk off from the responsibility that this is not my job. This is the brand's job. And whenever that happens, I've seen success. I've witnessed it myself. So I
And
would still say that for any agency AOR, it's important to keep yourself in the shoe of the consumer, in the
Mhm.
shoe of the business,
Mhm.
and work hand in hand with the client.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are times when there are very hard timelines given to the agency. I myself have done that, but I've invariably seen that the person who keeps himself in the shoes of the client
Mhm.
delivers.
Mhm.
There's a regular communication,
Mhm.
there's a alignment,
Mhm.
and then there is equal accountability, which is what makes great teams of. so
Fantastic.
so I think that for any AOR, any agency, as long as they are open to equally partner their clients in their business journey, definitely they stand a very good chance of backing the account.
Fantastic. No, I couldn't agree more. I think there is so much mediocrity in the market simply because agencies end up being very superficial. They're like, काम खत्म करना है, right? And more than problem solve करना है, for which you need to do a lot of research and empathize with your brand and your customer and the segment also, actually. So fully agree with you. Hopping on to my last question today, I think it's something everybody is being asked right now, and that is about the future of marketing as per you. AI has been a huge inflection point again for this industry, according to me, in the last 1.5 years. I wanted to know what's your take on it. Do you use it? And generally, as a marketer, how do I embrace AI successfully?
I think there are exciting times ahead for marketing.
Okay.
I see AI as a great enabler for what marketing is has been doing and what marketing will do in the
Hmm.
future.
Hmm.
Yes, I have embraced AI, and I also encourage my team to embrace it as much as they can.
Okay.
See, because what I feel is that AI can bring a totally different dimension to both the creative aspect of marketing as well as the media aspect. And I have seen myself that it works wonders in definitely some aspects of creative.
Hmm.
For example, if you want to make your product larger than life,
Hmm.
I have not seen a better tool than Midjourney,
Right.
right? If you want to find out more about the consumer, if you want to find out more about the business faster, if you want to find out more about the competitors, definitely across various online platforms, there's no better tool than Chat GPT or Bab,
Yeah.
Google Bab I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I would say that unless you put your heads down to it, and embrace it, you're always going to think that AI is a villain for you, right? But it is not so. And I was very fortunate that in 2013, when digital was evolving in India, I did a course in digital from IDMA in Bombay. And then actually I asked my company, my organization, even though I was not a digital or a media marketer, to give me a chance at getting a digital profile. That actually brings me to one important point before I end. At least one important advice for younger marketers is to ask, and ask. You know,
Mm.
if you are interested in exploring a particular role, for example, you might be in a brand manager role, but you are very interested in media. Ask your
Mm.
boss whether I can, get that role. But you can't ask without doing something yourself.
Right.
Do online courses, attend that seminar, attend that workshop. And these are all not very expensive. Honestly, I've done it myself.
Right.
And you will be in a better position to seek that position.
Right.
And at the start level or at the entry level, explore as much as you can. Don't waste your weekends. Do your partying, do your, meet your friends, socialize. But at the same time, try and learn more about a subject, especially in the subjects which you're passionate about,
Mm.
because that will make you evolve as a strong marketer. you know
100%.
and these are exciting times. These are fast changing, rapidly moving times. You should embrace the new technologies as much as possible. And you won't believe that when you do so, the right opportunity will run to you
Correct.
instead of you chasing the opportunity.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. I fundamentally believe obsession beats talent every day, and couldn't agree again more with you. And a great note, Jigar, to I believe end our podcast. It's our time. Thank you so much for all the time. I hope you enjoyed.
I enjoyed a lot, and I want to wish all the listeners of this podcast the very best in their journeys. And try and reach out to your mentors, to your peers, as much as you can. I would say network, network, network. And I think the success will not leave you behind.
Fantastic. And everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in so far. As Jigar said, do ask, ask, and ask. And if you like this podcast, please tune in, subscribe, and you'll soon hear another top voice on marketing talking to me very, very soon. Thank you so much.